PlayStation 4 has been a gaming powerhouse for over a decade, giving us some of the greatest games of all time. God of War, Bloodborne, Spider-Man, Final Fantasy Remake, and many, many more. Now, I never played Bloodborne, but I did hear it was amazing. But in 2025, Sony is pulling the plug. The PS4 is officially on its way out, and that's a much bigger problem than you might think. This decision doesn't just affect current owners, it affects future gamers, game preservation, and also just your younger siblings who are waiting to inherit your shit. The PlayStation 4 isn't just old hardware. With over 117 million units sold, it's one of the most popular consoles ever, and that's hard to beat considering the PS2 was literally more popular than Taylor Swift. And that's damn near impossible. Millions of people still use it daily, and with a massive library of games, it's still one of the greatest systems for budget-conscious gamers, for people who want to save money, for people who realize, you know what, maybe I don't need to pay as much for a PS5 game or just a PS5 in general. Maybe I can just save with the PS4 because the PS4 can do all the same stuff as the PS5, except it just doesn't look as good. That's the only difference, is the graphics, just a tad bit of frame rate. I am at the point in time now that I'm sorry, but the graphics in games can only improve so much. I can't tell you that much difference between PS4 and PS5. Now I can tell you the difference in the processor and how smooth the system goes, but the graphics, they're both great. Like, I don't see how so many people who grew up playing Super Nintendo or regular Nintendo or PlayStation, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn can ever really complain about graphics in games today. Now I understand when you have games that are on PS4 and PS5 and they look like they should be on PS2 or PS3, that's a little bit different argument, but that's not what I'm discussing or talking about. But when Sony shuts down support, updates, online support, all those hundreds of millions of consoles become shit. And that brings us to the biggest issue. Think about how many of us started gaming on older consoles handed down from siblings, parents, or friends. Well, I don't know about friends. I don't know of any friends that's just giving away consoles willingly. But the PS4 should be the perfect hand-me-down console, affordable, packed with games, and still capable of playing amazing titles. Just think about games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, Horizon. There's a ton. But if Sony shuts down PS4 support, which they probably are, and we pretty much know that at this point, the rest of those consoles that people were going to pass down to their younger siblings and their relatives, maybe even friends, which I don't know anybody who wants to do that, they become pixie dust, obsolete, absolutely worthless. They might as well be a VI shepherd. There's not going to be any online services, no more updates, and the fact that there's no more digital games, what's the point of having that PS4? Another huge issue, game preservation. Many PS4 games are only available digitally. Once Sony shuts down the store and online services, those games could disappear forever. Just cause. And does that feel very fair? Especially considering the game titles are now up to $60, $70+ especially if you get any special edition games, they're up to $100+. The hours that are worked, the time that you have to grind, putting in time at places that you don't want to be just so you can play some of these games to probably barely work in the first place. Let's not forget about patches. Many games get launched incomplete with a bunch of bugs and a whole bunch of messes. So if Sony decides they're going to shut down support and updates, then once again, you're going to be stuck now with a whole bunch of incomplete garbage piece of crap messes that's going to be given out to you at launch, because for whatever reason most gaming companies now decided that they can't launch a complete game. So if you get rid of your updates and you get rid of the support, that's no longer fixable. You're just stuck. Of course, Sony wants you to upgrade to the PS5, but here's the problem. Not everyone can afford it. And PS5 consoles are still expensive. They ain't changed in price. The prices are still the same. Now, obviously, you look at charts, yeah, it says that the games are pretty much being sold at the same rate, whether it's PS5 or PS4, whether it's console or video game, they're still selling pretty high. But the bottom line is PS5s are way more expensive. And if you keep PS4s available, people who don't have as much money will still have a chance to purchase your console and play your games and contribute to your platform and help give you more money. With no PS4 support, Millions of gamers are just going to be forced to have to upgrade to a PS5 or just quit gaming altogether or have to force to go to another console. And that's not just bad for gamers, just bad for gaming altogether. It's just sad. Because why would you destroy a console that has as much potential as the PS5 with the PS4? Hell, you can play your PS5 on the PS4. So what are we really doing here? It's a budget console that you can have for yourself that is actually very, very useful. You can use in many ways, many different devices. I remember when I was younger, I was very fortunate to be able to get most consoles available, especially between me and my cousins who live with each other. Now, the only ones we got new were the PS2 and the N64. The other ones were many years old before they showed up looking new at my birthday parties and Christmas. But I was a kid and I thought anything in an unopened box was brand new. Anyway, the only way to play these other consoles was to borrow from a relative or a semi-hand-me-down. But if those consoles function like a PS4 or any of these other modern consoles, it'd be pointless to lend those consoles to anyone, cutting off any potential memories or great experiences playing some of the greatest games of all time. I don't know what my life would look like if I never played Resident Evil 4 on GameCube, or if I never played Final Fantasy 7 or 8 on PlayStation. I might be 1,000 times weirder than I am now, and that's quite the statement. Anybody who's a true gamer knows it's much bigger than that. These stories, these adventures, these rabbit holes that we dive down into, these things that we travel in, immerse ourselves into, these wonderful worlds that really broaden our imaginations, that broaden our horizons, that make us see the world differently. Some people, it might skew it in some weird ways, but I feel like many of us, it just develops the personality that we have as an adult. Many of us played these games when we were younger, much younger, and they became a large part of who we were growing up, part of our jokes, part of our humor, part of the way we acted, part of the way we dressed, the way we conducted ourselves. Some of us might have taken these heroes a little bit too much to heart, and some people might have taken just the right amount of dosage. All I know is that gaming is special, and cutting off services like this because it comes down to just some type of money situation, or people just feel like it doesn't make any sense to continue what you're doing, doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't think it makes sense to many other gamers, because just to think that one day, if you don't buy a legitimate copy of Mass Effect, it won't be yours. To think that it will never actually be in your hands and you can never truly own it is bothersome to me. To think that any day somebody might get upset and be like, you know what? Gamers don't need that game anymore, and they just take it away. Just like we've already seen in the past. That's unacceptable, and I don't think any of us should accept such a thing. The PS4 is more than just an old console. It's a gateway for new gamers, a home for classic gamers, and an important part of gaming history. Sony shutting it down so soon is a major loss for us all, for everyone. I remember when my PS3 died, and it still technically lives, I just can't get it past the black screen of the very beginning. I can't get to the login menu. Or if I get to the login menu, I can't get past it. It just stops. And I remember shedding a tear that day. Slow, painful tear. Old, sad black man tear. It was really hard to watch, but it hurt me knowing that I'll never be able to access the stuff on that console again. The memories, the saved data, the hours, the grind, the hard work, the blood, sweat, and mother effing tears that were put into that effing console. Maybe not necessarily tears, but definitely a lot of sweat. So what do you think about the death of the PS4? Is it time? Is it on par? Is it just right? Or is it wrong? Is it an injustice? Is it something that you are upset about? Because me personally, I still have my PS4 in the other room. Perfectly great, perfectly useful console that will pretty much become worthless. And I love that PS4. All sorts of just great memories when I first got it from my old roommate. That joy you get, like the kid earlier that I showed you, having the joy of getting one of those beautiful new consoles, that is dying now. It's dying. Those days of nostalgia in the back of your mind, worthless. Forget about it, because you're no longer going to have those, because we're going to get rid of all of that. It's going to be AI slop and a whole bunch of digital bullshit out here on these platforms, and that's all we're going to have to use. Time to only go to PC gaming, which is sad. I like PC gaming. But there's nothing to me greater than having a great console to just turn on, share with your friends. But most of that's not the same anymore. Can't even play multiplayer at home anymore. Can't even have two people in the same household play on the same console on the same game. When that stopped making sense, a whole bunch of stuff in gaming stopped making sense. It did. That really hurt my feelings because I used to love battling my roommates in Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi 3 when I was back in college because Nintendo knows how to share. PlayStation back then used to know how to share. Can't do that now. Now you can do that in the new Sparking Zero, but guess what? You can only fight in the hyperbolic time chamber. What kind of shit is that? Yeah. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Once again, I'm trying to do different things on this channel. This is a unique place. This is a good place. And hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here today.